Okay, so some news breaking in the last hour or so, last 50 minutes or so, and it's not good news. And that's what it is. It's not good news, and it's very disappointing news, to be honest, is what it is. You can see it on the screen there. It's we're gonna be very open and honest about this because it's just been reported, as I mentioned in the last, about an hour or so, about the last hour or so. It's just been reported that Jimmy Uso, WWE SmackDown star Jimmy Uso, has been arrested for DUI once again. Now, Jimmy Uso, this isn't the first time this has happened. This is why it's so disappointing. Now, if you're not aware of the story, again, this is kind of breaking in the last hour or so. So details are going to be a little bit crazy. We'll speak more about it as time goes on. But Jimmy Uso, again, was arrested for DUI once again. Uso was pulled over on Monday night at around 10:35 Eastern Time in Pensacola, Florida, after police say he ran a red light, clocked going 50 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone. This is according to police records and TMZ. TMZ were first to break this story earlier today. Now, police records show that during subsequent questioning regarding running this red light, officers smelled alcohol on Uso and then asked him to exit his Dodge Charger. Police noticed Uso swaying, and he admitted he had consumed, quote, multiple beers before getting behind the wheel. Uso then failed a sobriety test and was arrested. Police say Uso's BAC breath test came back at .202 and .205, well above the legal limit of 0.8 in the state of Florida. Again, that's what we're talking about here. We're not just talking about DUI. Well, I was just a little bit over the limit. We're talking considerably over the limit. Okay, we're talking about over twice the legal limit here. We're talking the legal limit is 0.8. He's clocking in at 0.202 and 0.205. It's not good enough. It's unacceptable. Now, Uso was booked on a misdemeanor DUI charge. He is still currently incarcerated as of recording right now with a $500 bond. It's possible that he's being held for 24 hours due to the nature of the charge, and jail records indicate that he is being held in the, quote, tank, the drunk tank. Then, if you're not familiar, a lot of the time when people get arrested on DUI charges or alcohol charges, whether they're being, they're fighting in the street or a DUI charge, whatever, if they're so inebriated, the police officers will just throw them in the drunk tank for 24 hours or however long it takes for them to sober up. So he's currently being held in the tank right now. He also received citations for speeding and running a red light too. Now, this is Jimmy's second DUI charge in the last 2 years. He was also booked for similar charges in July of 2019, also in Pensacola. A jury later found him not guilty in that case, despite police video showing him swerving and stumbling during the arrest. Uso was also arrested earlier in 2019 after allegedly getting in a drunken dispute with police in Detroit. Again, as I've mentioned, this is the fourth time this has happened at this point. Now, on top of that, Uso is, of course, prominently featured on Friday Night SmackDown, WWE's biggest show on television, on network television, on Fox, in their biggest storyline with their biggest star, Roman Reigns. The last few weeks, the whole story, hasn't it, has been about Jimmy Uso finally falling in line and finally protecting his cousin or acknowledging his cousin as the tribal chief. But unfortunately, that looks like it will all disappear right now. At least it should. Because when's enough enough? Let's be honest here. Now, there's no word yet, it must be said, on how this will impact his status with the company. WWE sometimes. The thing is, WWE, they change their policy on this all the time. Sometimes when it comes to stuff like this, they'll react, they'll fire them, they'll suspend them, they'll send them to rehab, they'll do something, and then sometimes they do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, what they're going to do this time, I don't know. I can't tell you what they're going to do this time. I don't know. I don't have all of the answers to that. As of recording right now, as we're live and streaming right now, we don't know. We don't know the situation. We don't know what WWE's response to this is right now. WWE haven't responded themselves as to what they're going to be doing about this going forward. And again, ultimately, we just don't know. We just don't know. And look, I mean, there's so much to get into when it comes to this story. Look, it's scary, to be honest. It's really scary. And the reason I say it's scary is because the only reason this guy was caught this time was because he ran a red light and he was speeding, which he got citations for. And it makes you wonder. Now, again, I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble for saying this kind of stuff, but I don't know. But it makes you wonder how many times this is truly happening. If he's been caught 4 times, and the only reason he was caught this time is because he ran a red light, it makes you wonder. I mean, look, that's the mugshot. You can see it there. And he's well over the limit. He's over twice over the limit. There is obviously a massive issue here. And I don't really know what to say when it comes to what WWE does next. Obviously, this guy must have a problem. Because 4 DUIs? 4? Unacceptable. Because it only takes once. It only takes once for something really bad to happen. And I'm not just thinking about him. I'm thinking about someone else. I'm thinking about someone else driving their car that is below the legal limit and maybe hasn't even had a drink at all. I'm thinking about children. I'm thinking about passengers. I'm thinking about people going for a nighttime stroll or anything like that. And you've got some idiot drink driving. It's unacceptable. Especially in today's modern age. I mean, it's never acceptable anyway, but you've got Ubers. You've got Lyfts. You've got taxis. You've got all of these different methods to get around. And you think that's acceptable? What, because you're above everyone else? It's unacceptable. And look, I'm never one of those people that advocates for people to lose their job. But if you have recently in WWE lost your job because of budget cuts, the almighty dreaded budget cuts, well, we've got to let people go, budget cuts, corporate restructuring, you've done nothing wrong, you've been a good employee, and I'm talking about talent, and I'm talking about the people in the office, around the world, by the way. If you're one of those people that has lost your job recently and you're like, man, I don't know where my next paycheck's going to come from or what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. What am I going to do? And then you see this guy have the nerve to drink and drive, not for the first time, by the way. And if he keeps his job, that's unacceptable. Now, Mary says, I had no idea that Jimmy had been arrested for this before. It's rather disturbing. He definitely needs to get help. Why is not one of his family not getting him help? Sad. Arvin says, what is DUI? Driving under the influence is what that is. He is drank and drove, and it's not the first time. And as to what the options are going to be now, I mean, again, this is the thing, and like Mary said, you might say, well, why doesn't his family do something? But the thing is, with this kind of situation, and unfortunately with pro wrestlers over the years, not just in WWE, but in pro wrestlers in general, this is sometimes a too common occurrence. And sometimes the issue when it comes to help and getting help is you have to want to help yourself, and you have to acknowledge that you have a problem. This is a problem. Even once is a problem, in my opinion, because all it takes is once. All it takes is once for someone to get seriously hurt, seriously injured, maybe even worse. But multiple occasions, I mean, the last time this happened in 2019, the Usos didn't appear on television for the remainder of the year. For the remainder of the year, the Usos did not appear on television. It was until the start of 2020 that they actually appeared on television once again. They returned. That all stemmed from SummerSlam weekend, right? You remember that? With the DUIs then? Because the Usos were getting them several times. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but this is unacceptable. This is totally unacceptable. And arguably, he's getting the biggest push of his career right now. What is it with this self-sabotage? What is with this self-sabotage? As the report that I just read out there, as of right now, he's still incarcerated. He's still in the drunk tank. And don't get me wrong, and I don't want to be perceived as someone that's going in on someone and going in too hard on them and mocking them. I'm not mocking them at all. What I am saying, though, is that WWE, they've got to do something here. If WWE sits idly by and does nothing here and releases again, because I don't know what their reaction or their statement's going to be. I really don't. If WWE does because they do this sometimes when they go, well, they're responsible for their own decisions and all that kind of stuff, that is passing the buck. This is, I mean, again, even once is too many times. But multiple times? 4 times? I mean, I was going to say, how is this going to end? But we know how this would end. We know how this would end. And it doesn't end well. For anyone, not just for Jimmy Uso. I'm thinking about, again, innocent bystanders. I'm thinking about pedestrians. I'm thinking about other people traveling in their cars. And what kind of message does this send out? I mean, WWE, they're a PG company. And you've got someone getting multiple DUIs. This isn't the Attitude Era anymore. This isn't the 1990s. This isn't, well, you know, it was crazy back in that time. No, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. And if we see Jimmy Uso show up on SmackDown this week and being like, oh, you know, slap on the wrist, and we get a sly comment from Michael Cole, Pat McAfee on commentary, oh, this guy doesn't need to party too much, all that kind of stuff, or, you know, that no. And again, I know in the past, WWE, when it comes to these kind of offenses, DUIs, or people that have been busted for, you know, smoking marijuana when they're driving, or just DUIs in general, shall we say, sometimes WWE, they don't do a lot. They don't. Again, it varies. You can be on the scale of Rob Van Dam, who was the WWE champion, got pulled over for a DUI. Again, there was cannabis and drug paraphernalia in the car and all that kind of stuff. He got suspended for 30 days. He lost his WWE championship and his ECW championship. You get people like Jack Swagger around WrestleMania 29 time, got pulled over for DUI, still wrestled at WrestleMania, still wrestled in a high-profile match. He didn't win. Maybe that was his punishment. I remember one with Alex Riley in the end of 2010. Where he had it, he got pulled over for a DUI, and what did they do? Monday Night Raw, you just had CM Punk just mercilessly rip the guy to death by going, this guy doesn't need to party so much in his life and all this kind of stuff. He needs to stop drinking. But nothing happened. A couple of weeks later, I mean, Miz was the WWE champion, I think, at the time, and Alex Riley was his guy at ringside. Nothing changed there. In fact, the following year, the guy got a push for a little bit until John Cena put an end to that one. So WWE, I genuinely, I can't tell you what their reaction to this is going to be. I don't know. I don't even think WWE knows, because I think WWE is looking at this going, you have got to be joking. Because they'll be looking at this saying, man, we've got this giant storyline right now. We've got this huge story. Roman Reigns is the Universal Champion. Jimmy Uso's just come back. He's been on the shelf for nearly a year with a knee injury. You know, Jay's off television, but he's going to come back eventually. And the whole point was to get to a point where you've got Reigns and the Usos as the heel version of the bloodline. And, you know, the heaters for Roman Reigns. And Reigns is going to be facing John Cena at SummerSlam. And the Usos would have been involved in all of that. The Usos would eventually have won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships again. That all goes up in smoke now. It has to. It absolutely has to. And people that will say, oh, well, you know, it's a mistake. It's a mistake once, and even then, I would say you need to learn from that and you need some serious help. But we're talking 4 times. That's not a mistake. That's a problem. That's a problem. And I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's WWE themselves need to reach out to Jimmy Uso and say, look, enough's enough. You're going to rehab or you're fired. I don't know if it's his family that says, look, again, enough's enough. This is getting ridiculous now. Because again, we know how this is going to end, and it's not going to end well. I mean, you might say, oh, you're being totally dramatic here, but when you're talking about DUIs, potentially you're talking about life and death stuff. And I don't mean life and death in terms of the driver. Sometimes it is the driver. But again, I'm talking about pedestrians, and I'm talking about people that are driving legally in their cars. That's how we're talking. It's not big. It's not clever. It's dangerous, and it's illegal. And again, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, because when I saw this story, when it popped up on my Twitter feed, on my social media feed, I just shook my head and went, "You see again?" And again, that's it. You go again. It's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. Mary says WWE should not let Jimmy off the hook. Anthony says, throwing his whole life away, so much in-ring talent going to waste. Harrison says, not clever at all, not responsible at all. He should be ashamed of himself. He could seriously hurt someone. Again, that's my point. Globe Gaming says they might as well bring Jay back. Jimmy keeps doing this. Harrison says they should write him off TV for a month, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know what WWE will do again, but they're going back to a period now where they're going to be touring. They're going to be touring. They're going to be traveling from state to state, from town to town, driving. Do you really want to have this guy behind the wheel? Can WWE trust him to do that? Again, this is some kind of problem. Well, not some kind. It's a massive problem for him that he needs to rectify. And I would have thought, I mean, you would think 3 times. You would think 3 times it is enough of, someone reaching out going, look. And again, I don't know what WWF said to him. I don't know after the last time. Because again, the Usos weren't on television for the remainder of 2019 when that happened. They were off television for what was it, 5 months, 6 months, something like that after the last one. And even then there was discussions of, what do we do now? And I don't know if they said to WWE, said, look, straighten up your actor, you're gone. Well, he hasn't. And I don't care when people go, that was 2 years ago. I don't care. Because the person that gets run down, or the person that crashes, or that Jimmy Uso crashes into, or the person that gets seriously injured because of a reckless drinking while driving incident, they don't care that it was the last time we did it was 2 years ago. Oh, okay, that's fine then. Yeah, carry on. No. Unacceptable. It's unacceptable. There has to be a zero tolerance to this kind of stuff. And frankly, when it comes to WWE, they're not alone in this. This is obviously WWE's fault. Jimmy Uso ultimately is responsible for his own decisions. I get that. But they can't be complicit in this. Because sometimes, as I mentioned, when it comes to these DUI charges in the past, they have been complicit in terms of, well, these things happen. We'll let the legal system work its magic, and then eventually we'll figure it out down the line. Again, it's just, this is unacceptable. That's ultimately what it is. And like I said, we're living in a world where at your fingertips, on your phone, you can grab, you can call an Uber, you can call a taxi, call a friend. How hard is it? How hard is that? Because again, we know how this ends. And the answer is it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well at all. It ends with something far more serious than this happening. Not that this isn't serious, but it ends with something far more serious happening. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And as of right now, look, again, we don't have a ton more facts on the situation. WWE, as far as I'm aware, or since I've gone live, they haven't responded as of right now. We'll have to wait and see what they say. Again, WWE, as far as I'm aware, haven't. I mean, we'll check now since we're live. I guess a positive of being live through all of this is we can try and... What's going on? I mean, WrestleVotes has literally tweeted in the last 10 minutes or so. They've said, I've spoken to 2 sources this morning on the Jimmy Uso news. I can say with certainty that a few, quotes, high-level people in power are extremely disappointed and legitimately pissed off over the arrest. This many times isn't a mistake or bad luck. It's personal judgment, not good. And that's the issue. That is the issue there. It's not... well, again, if it happens once... You can say, well, even then, I don't like to say that. I don't like to say, well, what happens once and all this kind of stuff. I hate to say that because that's so passing the buck. But it's true. It's true what WrestleVotes has just said there that, once it's multiple, we're talking a massive issue here. We're talking an issue. It's bad personal judgment and it's unacceptable is what it is. So, I mean, time will tell. Again, if you are new to the stream here, WWE star Jimmy Uso has been arrested for DUI again after police say he was driving in Florida with a BAC of .205, TMZ first reported. According to police documents, Uso, real name Jonathan Fatu, was pulled over at around 10:35 p.m. on Monday night in Pensacola after cops say he ran a red light after being clocked going 50 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone. In the documents, officers say subsequent questioning, they smelled booze, they smelled alcohol on the 35-year-old, so they asked him to exit his Dodge Charger. Police say when Uso got out of his vehicle, there was notable swaying, and claimed that Uso was told he had consumed, quote, multiple beers before getting behind the wheels. Officers say they went on to bomb field sobriety tests, so they arrested him. Or he failed field sobriety test, TMZ. I mean, talk about the language they use. In the documents, police claim that Uso's BAC breath test came back at 0.202 and 0.205, well above Florida's legal limit of 0.08. According to jail records, Uso was booked on a misdemeanor DUI charge. He's currently still behind bars. Police documents show that Uso was hit with citations for speeding and running a red light. His bond is currently set at $500. This is the second time in the past 2 years he's been accused of drunk driving. He was booked for a DUI in Pensacola back in July 2019. But overall, again, I believe this is the fourth time that this has happened. So it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And, I mean, ultimately, let's try and end this on a positive note that no one was hurt. That's a positive, apart from Jimmy Uso's reputation and career, it would appear. And time will tell as to what happens here. And once WWE comments it, we'll probably do another video, or if we get some more developments, we'll go live again later today. But it's unacceptable. And you know, the guy obviously needs help. Needs help. But like I said, guys, once we get some more information, we'll talk on it once again later. But thanks very much for watching, listening, streaming. However you come across this stream today, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like. Subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Click a notification bell. You'll be notified if we go live again later today